Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.
Welcome to WagerTalk Today, everybody. I'm Lawrence Presman. He's Teddy Covers. Great show today, Teddy. Dave Cokin right off the bat. We're going to look at some college hoops. Two games tonight, the Norfolk State App State game and the UCLA versus Michigan State game, which we're going to look at twice. And then Dave's going to look at some hockey, the Wild and the Avalanche. Ralph Michaels at the bottom. We're going to look at Michigan State, UCLA, and an actual client bet he's going to talk about. Plus, he's got some TNA for us. Teddy, how are you today, my friend? What's going on?
Well, I haven't won from a game for my clients in the last two nights, so I'm not thrilled this morning. But all that being said, Lawrence, the truth of it is today's a pumped-up day, dude. We got NCAA tournament action today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, when we're on the show, there will be games going on. I'm going to break down one of those in my big game breakdown today. We'll talk Florida and Virginia Tech, a game that will be going tomorrow while we're on air. So there's a fair bit of excitement. There's a fair bit of hype, man. This is what we've been – I mean, we didn't get a tournament last year. You know what I mean? And we got it starting tonight. So the adrenaline's flowing, even though, unfortunately, the clients' bankrolls haven't done anything right for the last 2 days.
Well, Teddy, my clients and your clients are experiencing different things right now. I went 4-0 last night. Nice. Now just rolling completely. Won all three of my hockey games, won my NBA bet. I have a 5% play up tonight in hockey, guys. So check that out. I know it's all college basketball, but hey, money is money. Teddy, what happened in the Philadelphia? I was on Philly last night, and I thought for a second there I was going to be in your bad beat segment. Tell us what happened in sports last night.
Well, it's funny because I got a tweet from JBetsEV on Twitter, and he says Bucks -5 has to be a bad beat. They dominated OT. They're leading by 7 with seconds to go. The Sixers get the rebound off a terrible shot, and then Ben Simmons with the pull-up jumper for the cover. Yeah, that's true. But the Bucks were enough to cover in that game for exactly 2 possessions for the entire game. Once with a minute left in regulation and once with a minute left in OT. Philly, with the exception of those 2 possessions, covered every other second of the 53 minutes.
Right.
Philly was the right side. The dog went into overtime. That means Philly's the right side. So Bucks backers didn't get lucky, but I'm not going to say they got bad beat. Appreciate the tweet, J-Bets. But if there was going to be a bad beat in that game, it would have been on Philly backers, not Milwaukee backers. Simmons with the late jumper in OT gets the 76ers under the number. So we're not going to call it a bad beat. Bulls weren't a bad beat either, really. I mean, they're up 23 on San Antonio. They led by 18 with less than 2 remaining in the third. And then a 12-0 Spurs run. And then a 17-0 Spurs run. And then the Bulls offense stuck in the mud with the game on the line. Spurs win by 7. That said, this wasn't at the very end. Bulls led early. Spurs dominated the second half. It was a tough beat. I don't know if it was a bad beat. This was a bad beat. How about this? Celtics Cavs, the total as high as 217 at the open, bet down to 212. It's 100-96 with 2:30 to play. That's a dead nuts under the whole way. And they get 29 points in the last 2.5 minutes, including 17 made free throws. It was a foul fest down the stretch. Game sneaks over the total. A couple of bad bets worth talking about. Your standard knee-jerk reaction last night. The Raptors got a bunch of guys back. The markets bet Toronto -3.5 up to -6.5. But the Raptors are out of sync on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively. They lose outright at Detroit. At least bettors got it right with the total, 215. Bet up to 218, lands 228. That said, all the money on the Raptors last night were bad bets. And there was another knee-jerk reaction. No Kyrie for the Nets. Boom. Pacers from +3.5 to -1.5. The Nets were down 16 early. But they wiped away the deficit pretty quickly, and they owned the fourth quarter, won by 9. Pacers, a bad bet last night. Christian Wood was back for the Rockets. We talked about the Houston money coming, and we saw Houston money again last night, plus 12.5, down to plus 11. It's a very different team now than the one he left when he got hurt. The Rockets were 7-1 straight up in the last 8 before he got hurt. Now they've lost, 17, 18 in a row. Warriors had it covered by halftime. All the Houston money, bad bets. And, of course, in the NIT, the markets got both sides wrong. Toledo from plus 1.5 at some places at the open to minus 5 against Richmond. The Rockets lost by 10. And St. Mary's money, they're up to bet up to minus 2 against Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers won that one as well. So both sides wrong when it comes to the big betting action last night in the NIT. And a couple of bad for the books. There was a big steam move on Sacramento, plus 3 down to pick at Washington. There was even a minus 1 out there by tip-off. Darren Fox hits the game winner, less than a second on the clock. Kings win by 2. That was a bad result for the house. And there was Cavs money versus the Celtics on the second night of back-to-backs for Boston. No Kemba, no Tristan Thompson. Boston minus 9 at the open, down to minus 7.5. Cleveland wins that one straight up wire to wire. That, not a great result for the house either. There you have it, Prez. A little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. Back to you.
Thanks, Teddy. Guys, if you've been listening to the penalty box segment, I mentioned a few weeks ago these really good teams, when they go down by 2 in the second period, grab them on the money line. Last night, Vegas was down 3-1. They were plus 360 going into the third. I bet it. I hope you did. And it cashed. Keep looking at those bets, guys. Seriously. 3-1 in hockey is nowhere near the same thing as 21-7 going into the fourth in NFL football. Dave Cokin joining us. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Looking forward to the basketball tournaments. Plenty of NHL, baseball just around the bend. I couldn't be happier. Lots of action. We've even still got spring football, too.
Well, Dave, I want to tell everybody right off the bat, guys, Dave is having an outstanding hockey season. Last year, Dave and I were neck and neck in the baseball season for the number one most profitable bettor in baseball at WagerTalk.com. And Dave beat me on the last day. Dave, I'm ahead of you in NHL, but it's you and I again duking it out in hockey. I'm planning on beating you. I want revenge for what you did on the last day of the baseball season to me, my friend.
Well, I don't really compete against other handicappers, so I don't care.
I knew that was going to be the answer.
I'm only concerned about my results. And I will mention, last 2 hockey seasons combined, I'm number 1 and was number 1 in baseball last year. So that means the results are good in those 2 sports, and I just want to keep it that way. And that does tie in to a special that's up right now where you can get my full season in baseball at a nice discount. And that will include the balance of the NHL season right through the Stanley Cup playoffs as a free bonus. So, obviously there's a good sized layout because it's a full season package, but you pretty much, that's it. You don't have to buy anything else at all. After that, just sit back and bet them and forget them. Pick up the money.
Yeah, and guys, no coupon code is needed for that. Just head over to Dave Cokin's page at WagerTalk.com. You get his baseball season and the rest of his hockey season thrown in. Let's get into some betting. Thursday night, Norfolk State, App State. A slight line move since we last spoke. Minus 3.5 now, Dave. Appalachian State, the favorite team, a total of 133. How are we betting this game?
I thought, well, I don't know if I bet it now at 3.5 because you've lost a lot of value, but I thought they missed on the opening number, which didn't stay around long. App State 1.5 was short. And it got bet to 3 in a hurry. This is a pretty good team. If you look at some of the metrics that are out there, you'll see that App State winning the Sun Belt was not all that shocking. This is a team that probably should have been better in the regular season than they were. and really put things together at the right time. Norfolk State, obviously, they're pleased to be here. Did a good job in their tournament, but they come out of a really bad conference. It's probably the second worst conference in college basketball. I think Appalachian State has the better pedigree here in terms of the conference. They're really coming in playing well. The only thing that worries me is that teams that win conference tournaments in the underdog role, which App State did, sometimes don't do very well as favorites in the NCAA tournament. So that's a little cause for concern. But the better team here is the Mountaineers. And I do think they're going to advance and win this game.
Now, how much do you worry about conferences in these situations? Because one thing that I have not had success with is laying points in Sunbelt games or with Sunbelt teams. Do you worry about that type of an angle when it comes to your handicapping of these of the tournaments? Or is this strictly matchups in the conferences? You don't worry about it quite so much.
Well, I mean, I think you have to consider what was the conference like. And the Sun Belt, it was a cannibalizing conference. They just beat up each other all season long in what was a very, very competitive league. One of the most competitive leagues out there. I'm not saying it was one of the great leagues out there. Not awful, but it was just one of those conferences where the worst team was probably UL Monroe. And on the right night, UL Monroe could play with anybody in that conference. So in a sense, I think that could be beneficial to them coming into a matchup like this because they're used to tough games. Norfolk State had a little bit easier time of it because they were in a conference where they were just the best team. It's kind of like looking ahead to a game tomorrow, for instance, Colgate. Pretty good basketball team, but they had such an easy time in their conference because they were so much better than anybody else. I don't know that that's going to serve them well in the NCAA tournament. And that leads to a bigger fish, which is Gonzaga. And that's the one worry I really have for the Bulldogs. As good as they are, they're not real tournament tested over the last couple of months because they did nothing but play West Coast Conference teams. And it's not a very good league overall. That could be a problem for them when they move into the really tough games in the big dance.
Great stuff, Dave. Teddy, I gave you a little room. I thought maybe you might want to ask a question. Anyway, UCLA, Michigan State, and Dave, I'm fascinated to hear how you're going to take this game apart as well as when Ralph talks about it. One thing we know about Izzo, you can throw his season record out. When this team gets into the big dance, they are strong. They are tough, no matter how bad they might have been. They're -2 tonight against UCLA. 135.5 is the total. What do we bet here, Dave?
Well, I don't have a bet on the game. And I want to instead talk about betting patterns as they apply to this game. One of the things that is real big to a lot of bettors is who's the public on. Got to fade the public. There's one sport where that had a history of being a pretty good strategy years ago, and that's the National Football League, where if your bartender, your insurance man, and your barber all lined up on one side, you could pretty much bet the other side and have a real good chance to cash the ticket. That has not been nearly as strong a case in recent years. It's still, you're a little better on the sharp side than the square side, but not much. But in other sports, it gets completely overrated. And I think this is an example of it where you're going to see, and I'm not saying that they're going to lose the game, but you're going to see a fade the public move by a lot of bettors because Michigan State is getting all the support at the windows here. They're getting most of the tickets. They're getting most of the money. And they're getting it for the reasons you just mentioned, Prez, which is Tom Izzo in the tournament. Everybody knows how good he is in these events. If this were the NFL, I'd probably be looking hard at UCLA here as a fade the public game. I can't do it here because it just doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean basically anything in college basketball. The only thing it does mean is that if you like UCLA, you wait around, wait as late as possible. The game starts at 6:57. You might want to bet it at 6:56 because that's probably when you'll get your best number on UCLA. And if you like Michigan State, you should have been out there earlier than this. You should have been there basically at the opener, knowing in advance what the betting market was going to do. If I had to pick a winner in the game, I guess I'd take Sparty. A little more familiarity with the site, being at Mackey. That could help them a little bit. And I do prefer Izzo in the coaching department. But to me, it's a real toss-up game.
So let me ask you this from a circumstantial situation here for this particular game. Michigan State's been sitting in Indy since the Big Ten tournament ended last week. And UCLA's just flown in there. Is that advantage Spartans, or in this weird COVID season when you're stuck in a hotel for a week, maybe it's advantage to the other team?
I have the slightest idea, because we've never had this situation before, so I have nothing to base it on. You know, you might as well be asking what I think the cost of gasoline is going to be in 5 months. I don't know.
Dave, what's the cost of gasoline going to be in 5 months?
More than it is now, probably, because supply and demand. I do remember my civics classes from 1,000 years ago, and supply and demand is kind of important as far as price structure goes. So there's, with the pandemic loosening up, things opening up, and people getting in their cars again in the summer, the price of gas is going to go up.
Well, there, you got an idea then.
Teddy, you're being lippy. Any other questions? And then we're moving to hockey.
Go. It's hockey time. I'll zip it.
Dave, Minnesota Wild on a 5-game win streak, playing the Avs on a 4-game win streak. Both teams, though, playing the bottom feeders in the last little while. Now they're playing against each other. Avs are minus 150. Wild is a surprising team. They're playing awesome hockey. Where are you going in this one, man? You think the Dogs live?
I think Minnesota's a pretty good team, and I said that before the season started. They are emerging as the third best team in that division. I think they're better than the Blues at this point. And then you've got a gap after the Blues, because the rest of the teams, Arizona, Anaheim, the Kings are actually showing some signs of improvement. They've got some young talent there. Anaheim can't play, and San Jose needs to be shopping some of their expensive veterans, because they have no chance of contending. Minnesota's legit. The question on Minnesota is, will the goaltending hold up? But right now, they've got one of the hottest goalies in the league. Not a guy I want to go against. I think he's won 10 straight. The guy is on a tear. The Avalanche getting some bodies back, and they're an awfully good hockey team. So this is a fun matchup, because you've got the up-and-comer, the Wild, and you've got the established favorite, the Avalanche. I tend to like the more established team in games like this. Colorado's kind of been waiting for this. They knew what they could do against Anaheim. They got through that. They're going to be fired up for this game. And I think Minnesota's going to give them a real battle. But I just wasn't strong enough to pull the trigger on it. That said, if you're looking from a value only perspective here, I would probably say the value is on Minnesota. At this point in time, they're playing too well to be getting plus 135 or thereabouts. So it's a two-sided coin. Value on the Wild, but I don't think they're going to win the game, so I can't really pull the trigger on them.
Yeah, no, Dave, and it's interesting, because from a value perspective, I agree with you. I mean, if you look at this as, let's call it a 2-game, matchup, I think the Wild wins one of them. So if you're going to get plus 135 on each game, which is likely what will happen, you're going to win money if you bet the Wild in both games. So that makes a lot. Sorry, Dave.
I was going to say the flip side of that is, from a betting standpoint, I'm going to be rooting for Minnesota tonight, because I want Colorado off a loss in the next game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think they're getting swept by Minnesota here. So give me the Avalanche off a loss if they lose tonight. That's the situation I'm hoping develops.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Great stuff, Dave. Guys, Dave is the number one handicapper in NHL the last 2 years. He's number one handicapper in baseball, even though he doesn't compete against anybody. And all he cares about is winning for his clients. Guys, head over to WagerTalk.com. Grab his baseball season. It's discounted, and you get the rest of his hockey season on the house. Dave, thanks for joining us, man. It's a real pleasure. Enjoy the games over the next 4 or 5 days, and we'll see you next Thursday on Wager Talk Today.
Sounds good, guys. Always a pleasure.
Right back, everybody. Big game breakdown, Ralph Michaels, penalty box segment, and a whole lot more.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.
It is time for today's big game breakdown, and let's talk big dance. We've been waiting all week to get into some big dance plays, and obviously, and now that we're approaching the tournament, we can start to give you guys out some of these opinions. And let's start with a game that is going to be played tomorrow while we're live on air. It's the lid lifter for Friday's full tournament slate. That, of course, Florida and Virginia Tech. Looking right now at the Wager Talk live odds screen, it's basically a pick'em at most books. There, you can, if you shop around, you can find a +1 with either squad. Total sitting in the 135 range as we speak. And my first gut reaction when looking at this line was, geez, Virginia Tech is cheap. Virginia Tech's better than Florida. Virginia Tech's, they were a good team this year, and the Gators, they haven't covered a spread in March. It's not like Florida played their best basketball coming down the stretch. So that was the first gut. So you're like, all right, let's start digging. And you start digging. I didn't want Virginia Tech in this ballgame. This is a squad. If you're thinking about Virginia Tech and what they were and how good they were and how good the offense looked for stretches, you're remembering a team that probably doesn't exist today. Okay, look at what Virginia Tech has done over the course of the last month and a half now. Okay, 1 point spread covered. They beat Wake. Wake's pretty rough. Only 3 games. They came back from the COVID pause and got smashed at home by Georgia Tech. Then they beat Wake. Then they won another COVID pause, and then they went and lost their tourney opener in the ACC. This is not a team in midseason rhythm. And Virginia Tech's offense is sexy to watch when they're in midseason rhythm. They really are. I'm not expecting to see that team. I'm really not. Florida, again, it's not like the Gators were a great team this year. It's not like the Gators played great ball down the stretch. But Florida, number one, they have Trey Mann, who I think is going to be a difficult stop for the Hokies. But number two is that Virginia Tech plays slow. They don't look to run off of rebounds, which means the Gators are going to be able to crash the offensive glass here. And that's a big edge for Florida. I think that may well be the difference in the ball game. Florida can put the biscuit in the basket. Again, it's a pick'em game. You don't need any margin here. I'm expecting Virginia Tech's NCAA tournament to last a grand total of 1 game. It's Gators or pass. For this bettors, I worry about the Hokies and the choppy season they've had over the last 6 weeks. There you have it, Prez. Lean to Florida. Back to you, my friend.
Thank you, Teddy. Guys, let's just race through a couple of streaks. Some big stuff going on over at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. In hockey, a couple of highlighted streaks. Matt Fargo won again last night. He's now on an 11-1 and 16-4 hockey run. I went 3-0. I'm on an 18-5 hockey run. Dave Cokin, 21-8. Andy Lang, giving out NHL prop bets, is on a 10-2 run. In college hoops, Matt Fargo again, Teddy, 1-11, lost 0 on an 11-0, 22-7 college basketball run. Drew Martin, Osheim, Ski Buster, so good. All of them rolling. And Bobby Liggs, dude, 20-4 NBA run. Just outstanding stuff, Teddy.
Nice. So when you were talking about with Cokin before about how you were mad you lost on the last day of the season, do you really worry about that, like number one versus number two? Because I'm on the Dave side of the equation. I don't care.
Yeah.
I honestly root for everybody else because the rising tide lifts all boats. And when our clients win, they're going to buy more plays. But
well, Teddy,
I'm never like,
funny.
I want to be number one. No.
So it's funny you say that, Teddy, because you and I do look at this slightly differently. I'm one of the owners of WagerTalk, so obviously for me, I don't care. My sales are not as important as the overall sales of the entire business. So it would be a privilege to be the worst handicapper and still winning at WagerTalk. For a lot of you guys, it's a little different. You're making all your money on your sales, and I can understand some of the guys being really into, are they number 1, 2, 3, etc. But I love to hear that you care more about the website and everybody winning than you do about yourself. So in our next HR meeting, team player Teddy. Thank you, bro. Ralph Michaels.
Team player and Teddy don't often go together. Everyone thinks I'm a big jerk. Ralph
Michaels, everybody. Ralph, we miss you, man. Love having you back on the show. Excited about the next 5 days?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, we're past the next couple, looking to those next rounds and seeing what'll happen. So very, very excited, and excited to do a little TNA. It's been a long time since the football season ended and we got to do some TNA here.
Well, one of the things I asked you to look into for us is it better to bet, say, -2 Michigan State today on the money line, or take the 2 points? We have LSU on Saturday in the same position, and many others where it's a real tight spread. Do you want to discuss that right off the bat?
Absolutely. And actually, I have a chart for you guys just to visualize it. Prez said, let's take these small favorites, compare them to the money line. And so I went back to 2012, guys. You see that this is March Madness only. So these are all neutral games. And I took the small favorites from 1 point to 2.5. And you see there were 62 games in that. They went 35-27 straight up, 56.5%. And they went 28-30 with 4 pushes against the spread. Wow. So if we take the ATS numbers, you're going to win 28 units. You're going to lose 33 units with a 10% juice, which means you're down 5.3 units. When I took the money line, I went through and you broke down the money lines individually. So I used a pretty high average of -133 because the average line was -1.6. So I probably could have used closer to 128 as the money line. But you see, if you bet them straight up, you won 35 units. You lost 35.9 units. So you only lost 0.9 units. So in reality, in March Madness history, going back since 2012, it is better to bet those small favorites on the money line, albeit it's still -0.9 units in that period of time.
So I'm confused about that math for a minute. Can you leave that up for just a minute, Joe? Because we're talking about a difference between you're turning 7 losses from a point spread perspective into wins from a straight up perspective, right? Or 4 pushes and 3 of them are losses. You're turning all those into wins. And that simple, out of a 62 game sample size, turning 4 losses and 3 pushes at -133 ends up being more profitable than just -110 either way. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed
because
that.
I mean, and again, Teddy, I used a higher number because with an average line of 1.6, I wanted to err on the side of being higher because, a 1 point is going to be 120, a 1.5 could be in that 127, 128 range, which would actually make the straight up record 35 units won, and then 27 times 1.28 would actually put you at 35 units lost as well.
I love it, Ralph. I think that's great information. Bottom line, everybody, and you only can hear this type of info on WagerTalk Today. If it's under -2 and you're betting the favorite, just bet the money line. I know a lot of you guys could probably get even less. What, Teddy?
That's not what he said. He said 2.5 is the key number. At 2.5 or lower, you play the money line. At 3 or higher, you lay the points.
Okay, there you go. -2.5, play the money line. Ralph, thank you for doing this for us. That's really awesome stuff. And it leads us right into our first game, Michigan State, UCLA. Dave Cokin talked about it already. I'd love to get your take, my friend.
I do want to jump back. I've got some very interesting trends I do want to talk about. We'll talk about this game, and then Joe will just bring up the bottom third of that portion just to go through those unique settings. Prez and Cokin, you guys talked about Izzo being elite, and that's the reason he's bet the tournament. Well, how about this? In 2002, in 2004, and in 2011, Michigan State failed to win 20 games. So his worst 3 years, guess what? He lost in the first round, all 3 of those. So he's had elite teams. That's why he's won in the first round. The 3 years he did not reach 20 wins, he lost his first round game. But I've never seen a first half, second half dichotomy like I have in this game. UCLA's last 5 games, Oregon State, they led 34-24 first half, up by 10, lose by 4. USC, they led by 11 at the half, they lost by 1. Oregon, they were tied at the half, they lost by 8. Colorado, they were up at the half, they lost by 9. And then how about Michigan State? Down the stretch, they've gone 4-13 over under. They've gone 3-13 over under. In the 3 overs, first half, they scored 23, 26, 36. Second half, they scored 38, 52, 55. UCLA, a complete first half team, falling apart late. Michigan State's offense, anemic early, coming on in the second half. That has me with UCLA first half and under first half in this matchup.
So it's a really interesting handicap there, Ralph. And I saw that you had something up there just for dogs in terms of TNA. Does that factor into this matchup, or is that something different that you wanted to bring up?
It doesn't. The dogs are pretty. The dogs are pretty overall 50-50. I went back since 2011. Tournament dogs are 51.9%. 10-point dogs are 52.7. 20-plus point dogs are 53.6. But if you look over to the right-hand side, the most recent trends, while the dogs have performed a little better, the last 4 years, it's actually been 10-point favorites and 20-point favorites have been a 50-50. And I went back and I looked what happened, Teddy, 4 years ago. Remember, we had that 1 year where there was a couple big upsets. Missouri lost as a 2 seed. Someone else lost as a 2 seed. And I think that woke up those big favorites for the next couple years saying, let's not look past these teams. We'll see what would happen. So I don't know if that trend holds true, but I think that certainly gives everyone a little more reason to focus on that first round game.
Teddy, follow up? You good?
That was my fault.
You good?
Lawrence.
Okay.
We've talked UCLA, Michigan State as much as we're going to talk UCLA, Michigan State on this show.
There you go. Ralph, you got a best bet you're giving out to the clients tomorrow. It's on the Utah State, Texas Tech game, -4 for Tech. You're gonna give it out free on the show, so let's go. I hand the mic over to you.
I am. Texas Tech is the team I like. You look at them on paper, they're 17-10. And you say they really underachieved. Well, you have 10 losses. All 10 teams are in the tournament. They lost to Houston, Kansas twice, Baylor twice, West Virginia twice, Oklahoma State, and Texas. Chris Beard has won his first round game every season, even going back to when he was at Arkansas Little Rock. Utah State's regular season, they probably had the easiest regular season of any team of any mid-major conference. They played 5 road games, Air Force twice, Fresno State twice, and UNLV. That's it. Those were their only road games all year. And then if you look at the Red Raiders defense, it is elite. It's number 8. What do they do best? They pressure. They are number 8 in the country in steals. What's Utah State? They are number 208 on offense, turning the ball over. They have 2 freshman point guards. Boy, Texas Tech will roll. Utah State, finally, they have only played 3 top 50 defenses away from home on the season. They lost to VCU, they lost to BYU, and they lost to San Diego State. Red Raiders.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't talk you out of that one, Ralph. Though I do want to ask from a total standpoint, it sure sounds to me like you like the under in this game as well. Utah State, a slow-paced team that relies on their defense. Texas Tech, a slow-paced team that relies on your defense. Is the total something, is the under here something you're considering along with the side, or do you think the side is just that much of a better bet?
Well, if I'm going to have a top play like that, I normally don't want to go both sides in the tournament. I have a number here. It's sort of surprising, Teddy. When you have very low totals in March Madness, now this is very low. This total's not quite there, but totals of 120 or less since 2010 have gone 16-4 to the over. Teams foul very early in March Madness because it's do or die time. And you see 7 or 8 minutes when you're down by maybe 10, you start fouling. So I'm going to take that when I have that strong of a side play. I don't want to dilute it by having a play on the total as well in March Madness.
Ralph Michaels, everybody. Ralph, anything else for today?
Yep, Joe, if you could pop up that last thing, we'll blow them through them quick because there are some interesting things, guys. Number one handicap, guys, we all agree. If you have a good defensive team that's an underdog, you always look at it. Well, in the tournaments in March Madness since 2011, if you have a dog with a total of 124 or less, they've hit 67% against the spread. That's simple. Nothing else we need to do. Just a dog with a low total, and you have great success. The next one, this split surprises me, guys, and I look at these numbers. And there's times that it's just, wow, I can't believe that I see this division. So when you have teams off back-to-back straight-up wins as a dog, Cokin talked about it, right? You have those teams that are a dog, like Appalachian State. If they are a dog in a third straight game of 12 or less, so they're semi-competitive, they have gone 32-16, 67% against the spread. But if they are off back-to-back upsets, and now they are overmatched as a double-digit dog of 12.5 or more, they've only gone 7-13, 35%. Teams off back-to-back wins.
Man. This is great.
Teams off back-to-back wins, but they lost twice. Are you overlooked in the marketplace? Does Vegas start taking away credit? You're a big favorite, you lose. You're a big favorite that lose. Since 2011, those teams, 13-6-1, 68.4%. Makes sense to me. Teams off back-to-back straight-up losses. This obviously has to be first game only because you're not advancing. But teams that lost their last 2 games coming into March Madness since 2016 have gone 12-3, 80%. And the final one, rest versus rust. Which is better? We talk about this often. Those teams that finish their conference tournaments early, 2 weeks in advance, or those teams that finish the past week. When we have a team with 10 or more days rest that played their conference tournament 2 weeks ago, playing a team with 7 days or fewer rest that played this past week, the rested team, 24-12, 67%.
Awesome, Ralph. Gosh, just amazing. We learn every time you come on, brother. What do you got to promote?
Nothing. Stay tuned after. Dave and I and Steve Merrill will be on the college basketball show. We'll be breaking down some more games, and we'll be having some best bets over there as well. So appreciate you guys always tuning into the college basketball show.
Though, stop for a minute. You don't have any plays up for the big dance? You're not posted plays for the March?
Well,
March Madness?
I have a 5% all access play going up for tomorrow, but I gave you my 5% on Texas Tech. So I wanted to share that top play, and I'm happy to do it. It's a long tournament. There's a lot of people that have been with us. So you guys now know what my 5% is. No need to spend the $40.
Wow. Didn't even know it was a 5%. Thanks, man. That's awesome stuff. Ralph Michaels, everybody. Ralph, next Thursday, same time, brother. Be ready. We love having you. And I hope the ball bounces in the direction you need all weekend long. Be good, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Guys, it's time for the penalty box. live again. We didn't go anywhere. I'm Lawrence Presman. It's time for the penalty box segment. And I think I gave out more winners than losers yesterday, but we did go down the board from top to bottom, so I can't actually remember. Today, only 3 plays for you guys. Only. Right off the top, we're going with Arizona. They're minus 135 against Anaheim. Anaheim played last night. They were up 4-2 against Colorado. And like we spoke about at the top of the show, you bet Colorado in game, you're getting plus 280. They won 8-4. Anaheim is now coming home feeling pretty shit about themselves. And that's because, well, they're pretty shit. They lost 4 games in a row. Zona's lost 4 in a row as well, but 3 of them were against Terry Edelman's Minnesota Wild and 1 against Colorado. So they're dropping down in competition tonight, and I think they'll get the job done. It's a short number. Take them minus 135. The next game, we're going to Dallas, the Stars. This is a team that were in the Stanley Cup and lost in the finals to Tampa Bay, and they just haven't been able to get it right all year. When you can't get it right, play Detroit, especially off of a win. I told you guys about this angle recently. I like to play against these bad teams after they won a game. They beat Carolina 4-2 last game, which is ridiculous and outstanding by them. And Dallas lost to Tampa Bay 4-3. I think Dallas in regulation around a pick'em is the right way to go here. I think Dallas gets it done. And I also think Dallas is a buy team moving forward. Chicago Blackhawks, Teddy, we're playing against them. Tampa Bay in regulation. Bottom line here, I told you guys last week, Chicago is a fade team. They have lost 4 of their last 5 games since Tampa Bay. Teddy, I got it all in 2 minutes, bro. Did you write those down?
No, I was busy writing down what Ralph had. Ralph. So I appreciate it. And again,
that's too.
You come on. You're like, I don't know if I won or lost yesterday with these plays. It's like, did you write them down?
No, Teddy. My response to that is, I went down. I gave sides and totals on almost every game yesterday. So no, I did not write them down. I actually mostly, almost exclusively only care about my client plays, which in case you didn't hear, went 3-0 yesterday. But I have these plays written down, dude. Arizona on the money line, Tampa Bay in regulation, Dallas in regulation. And of course, I put up some free plays on my Twitter feed as well, which will go up by 2 p.m. Eastern today. But yeah, dude, it's a lot harder to remember how you did when you give out 12 plays in a 2-minute segment.
I'm sure it is. But we don't have any more plays to give out on today's show, folks. That's going to wrap it up for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. Enjoy the start of the big dance tonight. And be sure to tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon on the East Coast. We'll get you covered for all the tournament action all weekend long. I want to thank Ralph Michaels. I want to thank Dave Cokin. I want to thank my co-host, Lawrence Presman. And I want to thank you, our viewing and listening audience, for taking time out of your day to hang out with us. Please give us a like. Please give us a follow. And any comments that you give are much appreciated. Even if you just say comment, it helps us with the YouTube rankings. It helps us continue to give you the best free sports betting content that you can get on the internet. So there you have it. Enjoy the games and good luck tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow right here on Wager Talk Today.
Each and every Monday is $9 Monday at WagerTalk.com. All daily picks packages are priced at only $9, including $40 5% best bets. As an added bonus, all new users will receive $25 in wager bucks credited to their accounts, available for immediate use after their initial $9 Monday purchase. So make sure to take advantage of $9 Mondays at WagerTalk.com.